A very good evening and a warm welcome to Busy Infocus. I'm Zinat Musafir. Joining us this evening is Professor Suranga Silva from the Department of Economics at the University of Colombo. Good evening, Professor, and welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for inviting.
Professor, yesterday the government set out their plans for the tourism industry, and the government hopes to achieve a tourism revenue target of $10 billion by 2025. Would you mind talking about this a bit,
Yes,
Professor?
because I think new government should put the necessary attention on the tourism industry. Why? Because this is one of the most vibrant and most reliable and most contributable industry for Sri Lankan economy. So in that manner, I think this would be a very wise idea, and I hope that tourism industry can make a significant contribution for country's economic development.
Professor, so President Gotabaya Rajapaksa also has promised to cut unnecessary regulatory barriers that stand in the way of expansion of the tourism industry. What exactly does he mean by barriers?
Actually, when we look at the total tourism operation and development, we have seen that travel and tourism compared to index, it is actually measured all over the world. So we are very bad situation. Example, we are at the 77th position in the world, but India and Thailand and other competitive destinations, India is 34, Thailand is 32, and New Zealand is 46. Not New Zealand, Indonesia. But when you look at the other destinations, their competitiveness is very high. Why their competitiveness is very high? Basically, we have a lot of regulations. That particular travel and tourism competitive index, they are very clearly mentioned that Sri Lanka is having less competitiveness. Why? Because one thing is very rigid regulations and less openness of the country to the world as a product which should be promoted for global tourism development, global tourism level.
Professor, now you are also the coordinator of all tourist study programs at the University of Colombo, and the department has published a new book titled Best Practices in Global Tourism. Would you mind elaborating on its content, Professor?
Actually, now one of the best thing to promote and develop our Sri Lanka tourism, we have to see the best practices happening around the world. So when we see the best practices under different themes, actually there are more than 40 themes actually we discuss. If you can show to the media, would be very good. And that areas are very important. Example, how to encourage the women participation for Sri Lanka tourism industry, and how we are going to use the social media more effectively for promotion of Sri Lanka tourism, and what is how we are going to make more community based tourism development. So actually the 40 topic, actually we have discussed that one. That is actually focus on what are the best practices in the global level and what we can learn from them for Sri Lanka tourism development. That is one of the easiest method actually. If we really want to make some creative, innovative thing, we have to see the best countries, best cases and best practices, then we can learn something from that one, and then after that we can apply the most suitable method for Sri Lanka tourism development.
Professor, so in this latest publication, the first chapter is dedicated to women.
Yes.
And women empowerment. So how exactly is the female participation in the tourism industry? Is it satisfactory?
Not yet. Actually, it is very sad situation. Sri Lanka tourism is having I think the regional level. If you make a comparison between the regional countries, we can see this is one of the lowest women participation. When you look at even the Middle East, their women participation more than 40%, and Sri Lanka it is less than 10%. That is why the last government actually tourism strategic plan, they mentioned that increasing the women participation for tourism industry, employment in tourism industry up to 10%. It means that if you take the 100 as a labor employment, then only 10%, less than 10% women participation is happening for Sri Lanka tourism. That is very sorrowful situation. Therefore, we have to encourage more women. On the other hand, when you look at the total active labor force, those who are working coming to the tourism industry, they are around women labor force is 34%. So, most of the women are not working right now. So, those who are working also, they are not going to come into the tourism industry. That is why we have to be very concerned about this fact, because how we are going to make more women participations for tourism industry must be very decisive factor if you really want to make more attractive tourism promotion in Sri Lanka, because basically we need more women participation, because there are a lot of activities must be done by women in tourism industry, front office and other activities. So, therefore, it is a very critical factor we have to look into. Why? Because if we cannot take a significant contribution from the women, ultimately there will be a problem with social development, problem with the tourism development.
Now, the latest publication also highlights the importance of digital marketing. Now, right now, one of the main issues prevalent in the tourism industry, and of course as claimed by industry officials, is that there is a lack of promotion, both local and overseas promotion. So, what is exactly the importance? I mean, we all know promotion is a key component in developing the tourism industry, but how important is it to attract tourists to Sri Lanka?
Actually, when you look at the recent survey done by Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority also, we found that most of the tourists are coming through online booking.
Digital marketing.
Digital marketing, right. So, basically it is very clearly indicated that okay, the digital marketing is very important. But unfortunately, most of the operators of the industry, they are still focusing on the traditional method, going to the trade fairs, and probably that is also very important. But digital marketing can actually change, revolutionary change the digital marketing can do. Why? Because that is the most important factor for the new tourist. New tourists are not going behind the travel agencies. They are getting their information, all the information through the phone or through the net. So, therefore, digital marketing is a must. We have to see what are the most suitable best method we can promote for digital marketing for tourism promotion.
And with that, we cross over for a short commercial break. Stay tuned for more after these commercials. Welcome back to Viz in Focus. Joining us this evening is Professor Suranga Silva from the Department of Economics at the University of Colombo, and also the coordinating professor of all tourist development studies at the university. Professor, now certain industry officials have requested for a minimum price for rooms, hotel rooms, and they claim that at present the prices of hotel rooms are below, or it's much lower than the standard rate. Do you think that the government should intervene in this matter and the government should set a minimum price, or do you think it should be influenced by demand and supply
Actually,
forces?
this has a mixed opinion. Now, basically, I've been economics. I think okay, let it to happen determined by the market demand and supply. That is the most easiest, most convenient method, rather than intervene by the government or associations. But right now, Sri Lanka tourism market industry is not that much of matured that level. So, therefore, there are some distorting the market system. Some people actually making price undercutting, that can be very destructive. But at the same time, if hoteliers are expecting government will decide the minimum price, so that is also explaining that the inefficiency of our market system. So, therefore, short run it would be good actually. For long run, because of the Easter Sunday attack, there might be some sort of necessary of that type of thing, but basically let it happen by demand and supply. But the bad thing is, if the market is not perfectly competitive market, it is an imperfect competitive market. If it is run by few people, if it is actually created the bad during activities by small group, that is very dangerous. Then government should intervene. But when I look at the hotel prices in our region, I want to tell you this one. our price is very high actually. Now example, I did a recent research on that one. When I see the hotel prices of Malaysia and hotel prices of Thailand, hotel price of India, we are relatively higher than them. So even if you look at one hotel chain, what is happening, what is the price of Colombo and what is the price of KL, what is the price of Bangkok. So we see that Sri Lankan hotel prices are relatively high. So what is happening right now, tourists are looking at two things, very important thing before they are taking a decisions. One is airfare. What is the airfare? Second thing, the hotel price. Both we are very high. If you look at our airfare, it is very, now I know that some people would like to, the airfare is less if you go to nearby country and come to Sri Lanka, because direct coming to Sri Lanka is very expensive and the hotel price was same. But because of this difficult situation hoteliers are actually facing right now, it would be advisable to have the minimum price, but it should not be for a long run, because that is actually distorting the market competitions.
So minimum price should be set only in the medium or short term.
Short term, because long run they have to actually try to find out the ways to be competitive.
Professor, you said airfare as well as hotel room prices are much higher in Sri Lanka when compared with regional countries. Is there any specific reason for that?
So basically, now it should go down because of the government. The hotels were severely taxed by the previous government. Example, I calculated it is more than 25%, 26% tax they have to pay. So right now, because of the most of the tax were reduced significantly, the hotelier can use that tax reduction to be more competitive rather than to be more protective, right? So therefore, I think use that benefit and be more competitive and make prices more attractive for the tourists to come to Sri Lanka.
Professor, you previously spoke about the April attacks. Now, how does Sri Lanka and the tourism industry in Sri Lanka incorporate crisis management in its?
Yeah, actually this book also very clearly mentioned that one. So we have done a research on that one also. The crisis management is very, very important for sustainable tourism development, because tourism industry is basically vulnerable for small incident. Now, example, if something happen in Austria right now, right, it will affect for us to get less number of tourists to Sri Lanka because of Australian tourists are not coming. They are having trouble. On the other hand, what happened in India would create some problem for us. Therefore, crisis can be different crises. One is terror crisis, the other can be the economic crisis, another one can be the natural disaster crisis. So we have to manage it. How we are going to manage this? We have to develop the resilience of the industry practices. Now, therefore, we have to introduce the insurance system. That is very important, because basically, if you are vulnerable, the more the vulnerability you have, you better try to get more insurance from the other sources. Basically, that is very important. And the collective decision making, coordinations and government facilities are very important. Therefore, we have to find out the most suitable method and strategies to be more resilient when something happen. That has to be done by through the public-private partnership. It has to be done actually. I think don't expect in future we don't get any problem. It is unexpected situation may come because of the Iran and American incidents. You have to be expected. Therefore, we have to make our local industry, local tourism more strong whenever something happens outside. So, at the same time, suppliers and the service providers and the supply chain must be very properly strengthened. That is very important, because otherwise small incident happen, whole industry will have to suffer.
And with that, we cross over for another short commercial break. Stay tuned for more after these commercials. Welcome back to Busy in Focus. Joining us this evening is Professor Suranga Silva from the Department of Economics at the University of Colombo. Professor, now with reference to this publication once again, what exactly is community-based homestay tourism?
You know that even though a large number of tourists come to Sri Lanka, even though they spend a lot, there is no guarantee that that money will be going to the community level. Therefore, we have to think about the higher value added tourism and a higher income to the nation, at the same time fair distribution of that income to the right people. So, homestay tourism is a concept growing all over the world right now to share the fair share of the tourism development. So, actually that is we call people centric tourism development. The homestay is the concept the community can use their home for tourism attractions that can create a lot of opportunities for the community, because they can get valuable income and they can actually get more communication with the other world, and they can actually, the village community can develop their own supply chain and make tourists happy. Most of the tourists are happy actually. Recently last week one of my students actually was several tourists actually from Spain. They were very happy being in village, because in our village they can see lots of things they cannot see in their country. Example, coconut scraping, right. So, I got to know that they learn how to cook Sri Lankan curry and Sri Lankan milk rice. So, these are the things actually they actually getting experience. So, I think this is a good concept if we really want to distribute the tourism income to the people, those who really need such income. I think it is very important. Why? Because if you really want to alleviate the poverty of the country, that is a very important strategy approach to make more homestay tourism development. But government should do a lot of things. Example, we have to provide the good quality. Quality must be ensured, continuity must be ensured, at the same time continuity and quality, and specifically they must be given right training actually, because when the tourists come to that place, if they are well trained, so they can provide the very good quality services, then tourists are very happy. So, therefore, this is a very good aspect if you really want to make people centric tourism development in Sri Lanka.
Professor, now human resources has always played a very important role in the tourism industry. Does Sri Lanka have enough human resources, or are we facing a lack of those resources?
It is very obvious that industry is suffering from lack of skilled manpower. So, therefore, we have to use new method to train them. Example, actually new government policy also they have clearly mentioned that starting new hotel schools in different districts and different provinces. That is very good, but the public private partnership is very important, because the government can't do everything. Therefore, private sector must be incorporated. When you want to private sector incorporated, we have to give some incentive. So, therefore, biggest challenge is nobody knows how many people actually needed for tourism industry by 2025, because 2025 we expect 7 million of tourist arrival, then 10 billions of tourism income. So, if 7 million tourist arrivals, what would happen? Okay, how many hotel rooms we need? It is very easily calculated, but how many manpower it involved with, that has to be properly calculated. Example, now front office, food and beverage and other sectors, different ratio we know that, but in addition tour guide and interpreters and other service provider must also be calculated. So, what I realized that is actually we have no clear cut idea. Even we do not know which site, how many tourists have already come right now. Example, I am actually responsible to develop the Northwestern Province Tourism Plan under the United Nations. So, I have actually developed it. It is near future, it is coming. What I realized that there is no database in any site how many tourists are coming. So, having proper database, having good research and collecting information, we can actually develop certain very more accurate plan for manpower development. Example, now we have one challenge is women participation very less. Second challenge is those who are coming to the industry, they are leaving industry. So, we have done a survey, they are leaving the industry, they are not leaving the hotel, they are leaving the industry, sometimes they are frustrated. Third one is lot of people are plan is going to abroad for high salaries. So, they use the Sri Lanka hotels as a platform to go abroad. So, therefore, we have different challenges. We have to find out, okay, it is good our people to go to abroad and take money back, send in money back, but we have to have we have to see the current new generations are going to involve the tourism industry. Now, example, education is very important. Now, with the A level and O level level also we are starting now education, but we have to have proper plan how they are going to take into the industry, what type of training we are going to provide, who are going to be responsible for training, and after the training how they are going to be employed in industry and what type of incentive they are being given. Now, example, they have a good service charge when the tourists are coming, but when they are servicing, as they are average salary is very less. Partnership is very important. The second one is we have to do a research and get some input what really they want. There are new type of tourism are coming. One thing is silver tourist. Silver tourist actually after 55, the next decade definitely there will be a mature people. Therefore, we have to train our people more hospitality. Second thing is now actually I have seen recently even one of my students doing the research on the what is called that more people to be trained for the rehabilitations. Now, those who are having drug addicted, those who have mental problems, there are some countries they are promoting rehabilitourism. So, there are new concept actually we can go. Basically, I want to tell you, if you ensure that if you can ensure that hospitality in our country with the green environment, clean air, and definitely we can actually have a very good attractive for Sri Lanka tourism development.
Yes, we could go on and on talking about the tourism industry, Professor. Of course, today we will be wrapping this in focus. Joining us this evening is Professor Suranga Silva from the Department of Economics at the University of Colombo. Professor, we hope to have you on our show once again to talk about the tourism industry. But for now, it's a wrap of Biz in Focus. Thank you for watching. Good night.